so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so very much. Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Thank you so very much for joining us today. Part 3 of the ongoing session on the glory or the Mahatmyam of Guruvayur, Sri Krishna temple in Kerala. Before I begin this session, I would like to mention that this session especially, I would like to dedicate to my mother, because thanks to her, she introduced me to the Narayaniyam, which we shall be discussing today during the session. I have so many fond memories of reading the Narayaniyam and studying the Narayaniyam along with her. So, Mummy, wherever you are, I hope you're seeing this. And thank you so much for giving us this treasure. This is something that I and our family, we will always cherish all our lives. Thank you so very much. I shall now share my screen. Please let me know if you're able to see it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, is my screen visible to all the devotees?
Yes, it is.
Hare Krishna, yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much. I would like to begin the session today with a prayer. The very first verse from the Sriman Narayaniyam. Sandranandavabodhatmakam anupamitam karadeshavadhibhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam drushtamatre punarurupurusharthatmakam brahmatattvam tattavadbhati sakshat gurupavanapure hanta bhagyam jananam. How fortunate are the people living in the Kali Yuga, for there shines right in front of them the very personification of intense, pure bliss, the one without comparison, unbound by the limits of time and space, free from illusion, the ultimate truth, whose nature innumerable scriptures try to explain, but who can be easily attained by single-minded devotion. Hare Krishna. The focus of today's session will be the life and the work of two very great devotees of Guruvayurappan. The first being Sri Melpattur Narayana Bhattatiri, and the second being Sri Puntanam Nambudiri. We'll start by looking at the life and times of Sri Narayana Bhattatiri. So Sri Melpattur Narayana Bhattatiri was an eminent Sanskrit scholar and poet, born sometime around the year 1560 in a Nambudiri Brahmin family on the banks of the river Bharatapura near the famous Tirunavaya Navamukunda temple in Kerala. This temple is one of the 108 Divya Deshams, which are greatly respected by the Sri Vaishnavas, the devotees in the south who follow the Sri Vaishnava philosophy, or the Sri Vaishnava school of Bhakti. So Bhattatiri, Narayana Bhattatiri was his name. Melpattur was the family or the clan that he was born into. So he was a student of the great Sanskrit scholar, astrologer, astronomer, and mathematician Achyuta Pisharadi. Bhattatiri, Narayana Bhattatiri, is believed to have voluntarily taken upon the disease of rheumatism that had affected his teacher, praying to the Lord to relieve his teacher's suffering. And it happened. And so it happened that instead of his teacher, Narayana Bhattatiri was affected by the disease of rheumatism instead. So rheumatism is a disease like paralysis, where you lose function of your joints and limbs. And in those days, in the ancient times, it was a very difficult one to cure. So in order to find a solution to this ailment, Narayana Bhattatiri sent his messenger to Sri Tunjat Ramanujan Ezhuthachan, a renowned Malayalam poet saint, for advice on curing himself of the illness. So the photograph that you see here on the screen is a painting. It's an artist's representation of what Sri Ezhuthachan looked like. So Tunjata Ezhuthachan is most well known for composing the Adhyatma Ramayanam Kilipattu, which is a retelling of the Valmiki Ramayana in a traditional song format in the Malayalam language. Now, the advice that Ezhuthachan passed on to Bhattatiri was to serve starting with fish. Now, for any common layperson, it might not have been easy to make out the deep meaning behind Ezhuthachan's message. Any one of us probably at that time would have thought, oh, why is he asking Bhattatiri to consume fish? How can he do that? What was he even thinking? But Bhattatiri correctly interpreted the advice as to compose a prayer to the Lord describing the glory of his Dashavatara, or 10 major incarnations, beginning with the Matsyavatara, where Matsya means fish. So Narayana Bhattatiri very correctly interpreted the meaning of Ezhuthachan's advice, and he proceeded to act upon it. Now, what is the Narayaniyam? Sriman Narayaniyam is a highly condensed form of the Srimad Bhagavatam, capturing its essence in 1034 verses across 100 dashakams. Now, a dashakam is a set of 10 to 11 verses. The Narayaniyam is a combination of deep, heartfelt devotion and masterful use of the Sanskrit language. Narayana Bhattatiri composed one dashakam each day, thus completing 100 dashakams in 100 days. The Narayaniyam is special because it was composed in the direct presence of the Lord, right there in front of the Lord at Guruvayur, and it has the blessing and the seal of approval of the Lord himself. Every dashakam, or every set of 10 verses, or every chapter, if you like to call it like that, every dashakam from the 5th to the last, except number 73, ends with a heartfelt prayer to the Lord to cure him of all his ailments, physical and mental. Now, there were a number of experiences that Narayana Bhattatiri had during the course of composing the Narayaniyam, which gave him a lot of spiritual insight and worked towards deepening his devotion to the Lord even further. he experienced the grace and the visions of the Lord, or darshans of the Lord, on multiple occasions during the course of composing the Narayani. While, for instance, while writing about the Narasimha Avatara, Narayana Bhattatiri was at a loss of words to describe the incredible man-lion form of the Lord. Now we can imagine when the Lord appeared as Narasimha, bursting out of that pillar in Hiranyakashipu's palace, how it must have been for those who witnessed it. No one had ever even conceived of such a form before. Half man, half lion, and so very powerful. Now imagine Bhattatiri's state of mind when he was trying to visualize the form in his mind so that he could accurately describe the form of the Lord, so that he could do it justice. And while he sat down to do that, he thought, oh, it's not so easy. I must do it justice. I do not want to make any mistakes. When he was deliberating in this manner, it is believed that the Lord himself, he sprang forth from one of the pillars in the Nalambalam. The Nalambalam is the inner shrine at Guruvayur, which I explained during the last session. The Lord sprang forth from one of the pillars in the Nalambalam in the form of Narasimha, just as he had appeared in front of Prahlada and all the others all those years back in the Krita Yuga in Hiranyakashipu's palace. He sprang forth from the pillar in one of the pillars in Guruvayur in that very same Narasimha form, and he waited for Bhattatiri to fully have the darshan of his Narasimha form so that he could accurately describe the great, the glorious, and the magnificent form of Narasimha Swami. This was one instance. On another occasion, Narayana Bhattatiri was describing the episode wherein Hanuman hands over Devi Sita's Chudamani, or hair ornament, to Sri Rama. So Hanuman has visited Lanka. He has seen Sita Devi. He has offered his respects to her. And as a return message from Sita, Hanuman takes back her Chudamani and presents it to Sri Rama. Now Bhattatiri is about to describe this particular episode in the Narayani. So he wrote, Mauli Ratnam Dadau. Now Mauli means head, Ratna is jewel or an ornament, and Dadau in Sanskrit means to hand over to. So Bhattatiri wrote, Mauli Ratnam Dadau. Now he knows, of course, that Hanuman handed over the ornament to Rama, but because he was following a certain specific poetic meter while poetic pattern while composing the Narayaniam, he could not write the word Rama completely because the meter that he was following, the pattern that he was following, would not allow for that one extra syllable. And as he sat there thinking and thinking, oh, what should I do? What should I do? I have to write this, but the meter doesn't allow me to do that. And I know what it is, but I don't know how to write it. It was that kind of situation. The Lord, as merciful as he always is, it is believed that he then stretched forward his hand from his right hand, from the centermost shrine, the Garbhagriha. He stretched forward his hand, indicating that the jewel that Hanuman gave was handed over to Guruvayurappan himself, who is both Krishna as well as Rama. So then Bhattatiri understood and he added the syllable te, meaning to you, O Guruvayurappa, because he's addressing the Lord as he's describing the various leelas of the Lord. So he writes, Mauli Ratnam Dadau te. And thus he was able to complete that particular line in the Narayaniya. And finally, on the 100th day, Bhattatiri had a brilliant vision of the Lord in concrete form. He saw the Lord for himself right in front of his naked eyes. We understand how difficult it is for an ordinary human being to see the vision of the Lord right there with his or her own eyes. And Bhattatiri saw that. It was like the best possible grand finale he could ask for, completing the Narayaniya. So he saw the Lord as the enchanting little boy Krishna in the boy form, which he describes in the very first verse of the last Dashakam. He describes it as Agre Pashyami, meaning I see before me. And that verse ends, or somewhere in that first verse, there is a phrase, Divya Kaishora Vesham. Kishora, the Kishora stage we know is a little boy on the verge of adolescence, or in the adolescent stage, or the preteen stage. So he describes it as, describes the Lord as a divine adolescent boy. That entire chapter, the last chapter, describes the appearance of the Lord in so great detail. If only we were to close our eyes and listen to the chanting, or try and concentrate and read this particular chapter with the synonyms and the translation, we would understand how very beautifully Bhattatiri has described the Lord's appearance. So every single word in the last chapter, or in fact, the entire Narayanam itself, it reflects the deep devotion that Bhattatiri had. Now, a very interesting piece of information about the last chapter, or the last verse of the Narayanam. Now in Kerala, there is, we know different regions of Kerala have their own calendars, or the Indian calendar has different versions in different regions of India. We do not follow the traditional Indian system, does not follow the Gregorian calendar that is followed in the West. So in Kerala, the calendar that is followed is called the Kollavarsham calendar. It starts from the year 825 Common Era, which is sometime in the 9th century. It is based on a very ancient coding system or encryption system called the Katapayadi Sankhya in Sanskrit, where, in very brief, if I were to describe it in very simple terms, numerals are assigned to letters or syllables. So the last words of the Narayanam are Ayur Arogya Saukhyam. Ayur meaning long life, Arogya meaning health, and Saukhyam meaning happiness. So these three words, Ayur Arogya Saukhyam, when converted using this Katapayadi Sankhya system, they give the date of completion of the Narayanam as the 28th day of the Malayalam month of Vrishchikam, Kollavarsham 763. This is as per the Malayalam calendar. This, when translated in Gregorian calendar terms, corresponds to the 27th of November, 1587. So this is the precise date on which the Narayanam was completed and finally presented to the Lord. And ever since, this particular day is celebrated every year as Narayaniya Dinam, or Narayanam Day. So this tells us what deep thought Narayana Bhattatiri must have put into composing the Narayanam, and his knowledge of Sanskrit or ancient coding systems to not only describe the various glories of the Lord, not only describe the deep spiritual truths in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Condensing the Bhagavatam is no easy task. We know the Bhagavatam contains 18,000 verses, and condensing it into just 1,034 verses without compromising on the essence of the Bhagavatam, that was a mammoth task that Narayana Bhattatiri achieved. So this, what I'm going to share right now is an experience from the life of Narayana Bhattatiri in his last days. Some most historical accounts say that Narayana Bhattatiri left this physical world at the ripe old age of 105 years. So how did that come about? There is a beautiful temple dedicated to Adi Parashakti, the Divine Mother goddess, at Mukkuttala in the Malappuram district of Kerala. So Narayana Bhattatiri once visited this temple and he prepared to compose a complete description of the goddess from foot to head. Padadi Kesham. So Pada meaning feet, Kesha meaning hair. So he proceeded to compose a detailed description of the beauty and the glory of the goddess, from starting with her feet and going all the way up to her head or hair. Now, Bhattatiri had just composed the Narayaniam, like we know, it's not an easy task. 18,000 verses in the Bhagavatam and just 1,034 in the Narayaniam, and it's not compromising on the essence. So Bhattatiri had a little bit of pride. Like, oh, I have done such a big task. This foot to head description of the goddess should be easy for me. It's going to be a cakewalk. I'm not going to have trouble at all doing this. Now, God does not like to see pride in his devotees. So Bhattatiri started, and he kept composing and composing and composing and composing. He went on and on and on. And he had finished composing 70 verses. He found he was still describing the goddess's feet. He just could not move beyond describing the goddess's feet. And it was only then that he realized, oh my goodness, what a grave mistake I have committed. How could I be so vain? How could I be so full of pride? How could I even think like this? And he then prayed to the goddess for forgiveness. And the great poetic work that he composed then came to be known as Sri Pada Saptati. Sri Pada meaning the divine feet of the mother goddess, Adi Parashakti, and Saptati meaning 70 verses. So 70 verses in praise of the Divine Mother's feet. And one fine day, a celestial vehicle appeared at this temple, this Mukkuttala Bhagavati temple in Kerala, and it carried Bhattatiri to Vaikuntha. So Bhattatiri is one of those very, very few personalities who have been able to attain the Lord's abode with their physical body. We know it's not possible. Ordinary beings have to leave behind their physical body when the time comes. But Bhattatiri was one of those fortunate souls. So this sacred spot at this temple in Kerala is worshipped even today as a mark of respect to this very great poet saint. I would like to conclude this particular part of the session with the last two verses from the Narayaniam. So verse number 10 and verse number 11 from the last Dashakam 100 from the Sriman Narayana. Yogindranam tvadangeshu adhikasumadhuram mukti bhajam nivaso bhaktanam kamavarshadhyutaru kisalayam nathate padamulam. नित्यं चित्तस्थितं मे पवनपुरपते कृष्णा कारुण्यसिन्धो हृत्वा निःशेषतापान् प्रदिशतु परमानन्दसन्दोहलक्ष्मी. May the soles of your feet, O Lord, which are the sweetest and most dear to noble sages and are the place of rest of fully liberated souls, and which resemble the tender branches of the divine wish-fulfilling tree that shower upon your devotees all that they desire, be forever embedded deep in my heart, O Lord of Guruvayur, O Sri Krishna, O endless ocean of mercy. May your feet relieve me of all my sorrows and bless me with abundant prosperity and pure bliss. Atnyatva te mahatvam yadiha nigaditam Vishwanatha kshamedhaha Stotram chaitat sahasrottaram adhikataram tvat prasadaya bhuyat dvedha narayaniyam shrutishu cha janusha stutyata varnanena sweetam leelavatarihi idamiha kurutam आयुरारोग्य सौख्यम स्वीतं लीलावतारैः इदमिह कुरुताम् आयुरारोग्य सौख्यम स्वीतं लीलावतारैः इदमिह कुरुताम् आयुरारोग्य सौख्यम. O Lord of the universe, please forgive me for any lapses I may have committed unknowingly, being ignorant of your greatness in this prayer of over 1,000 verses, which I pray may become an instrument of your grace. May this hymn called the Narayaniyam for two reasons. One, you, the Supreme Lord Narayana, being its subject matter, and two, being composed by me, also called Narayana, your humble devotee, and which narrates accounts of your incarnations and divine Leelas, which are also praised in the Vedic scriptures. Confer a long life, good health, and happiness upon every living being in this universe. I would now like to ask the devotees or Prabhuji, any questions, anything you would like to know?
No, that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I was just saying to Nabi, yesterday I was just listening to a lecture and they were talking about the Narayani. So it's really amazing how you talked about it today and explained exactly what it is. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Yes. Divine intervention here.
Haribol very sweetly put it, and it was so interesting. It's amazing how you're so knowledgeable. Thank you very much, Mataji. Go, Krishna bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mataji. That's very, very kind of you to say. Thank you so much. Thank you. With your permission, Prabhuji, we'll move on to the second part.
Yes.
So we'll now learn about Bhakta Kavi Puntanam, another very, very great devotee of Guruvayurappan, who was a contemporary. He lived in the same time period as Narayana Bhattatiri, but he was a few years older. So according to the historical records that are available, Bhattatiri was born sometime around the year 1560 in the 16th century, and Puntanam Nambudiri was born around 13 years earlier, so 1547. He was born at a village called Kiratur in the present day Malappuram district of Kerala. This place is about approximately 65 kilometers away from Guruvayur. Now, Puntanam Nambudiri was blessed with a child after years and years of prayer. So he had been married for many, many years, but he did not have any children. And he prayed and prayed and prayed. And finally, he was blessed with a beautiful little boy. But very unfortunately, this child died on the day of the Annaprashanam ceremony. Now, the Annaprashanam ceremony is a traditional ceremony where a child is given the very first morsel of solid food. So until the age of about 6 months, we know children are given only liquid food, the mother's milk and other liquid foods. And the very first morsel of solid food that the child eats, it's a tradition that it should be the prasadam of the Lord at any temple which one can visit. So unfortunately, this child who was born after so many years and years of prayer and penance, the child died. And Puntanam, needless to say, he was heartbroken. What else could he do? All he could do was run to Guruvayurappan and cry and pour his heart out. So he sought refuge at Guruvayur, where he is believed to have been consoled by the Lord himself, who came and lay down in his lap as a little child. So for that one moment, or for those few moments, he gave Puntanam the blessing of being a father. I mean, imagine the Lord of the universe lying in his lap as a little baby. What else could he ask for? What more could he ask for? This experience proved very enlightening to Puntanam, and thereafter he was able to stop grieving over the loss of his child, and he thereafter considered Sri Krishna as his own little son. In the Jnanapana, his most famous work, the Jnanapana translates, the name Jnanapana translates to the Song of Wisdom. If the devotees may recall, I shared or sang a verse, the first few lines from the Jnanapana in the very first session of this series. So that Jnanapana has been composed by this Puntanam Nambudiri. He writes in this work. So in Malayalam, the words are Unni Krishnan Manasil Kalikkumbol Unnigal Mattu Venamo Makkalai, which in English it translates, when little Krishna is dancing in our hearts, do we really need little ones of our own? So because his works were so deeply infused with devotion, he is popularly known as Bhakta Kavi Puntanam, devotional poet. Now, this particular episode is very, very interesting. So Puntanam and Narayana Bhattadiri, like I mentioned, they were contemporaries, although Puntanam was a few years older. So once, Puntanam happened to be reciting the Vishnu Sahasranama at Guruvayur. And he happened to pronounce the words Padmanabho Amara Prabhu. Now, if you, for devotees who are familiar with the Devanagari script of Sanskrit, I have not included the Devanagari words here, but it is when these words are written in Sanskrit, they write it as Padmanabho, and then there is, I don't know what it is called in Sanskrit. I have not studied Sanskrit so very deeply, but it is written in such a way that now it's a tendency when words are two words are combined, or there is a connection between two words, there's a tendency to not focus on the part that joins two words. So Pundanam pronounced the words as Padmanabho Maraprabhu. He did not focus on the a syllable. But technically, as per the rules of grammar, it is Padmanabho Amaraprabhu. Pundanam was not very well versed in Sanskrit, but now Bhattatiri, who happened to be nearby, he was listening to this recitation of the Sahasranamam. And he considered himself to be a master of Sanskrit, and he laughed when Pundanam pronounced it in this manner. He mocked him. And Pundanam, being as simple and as innocent as he was hurt. And of course, the Lord would not stand for his devotee, his dearest devotee, to be hurt on any account. So then, at that very moment, a celestial voice was heard from the Garbhagriha of the temple, or the Sanctum Sanctorum. And the Lord said, I am both Amaraprabhu and Maraprabhu. Amaraprabhu meaning the Lord of the immortals. And the word Maram in Malayalam means tree. So I am also Amaraprabhu and Maraprabhu, or the Lord of the trees. So to commemorate this episode, to commemorate this incident, there is a 52 feet tall terracotta sculpture whose photograph you see on the screen now. This sculpture is called Guruvayur Maraprabhu. It depicts Sri Krishna as the Maraprabhu that Pundanam referred to while reciting the Vishnu Sahasranama. This sculpture is present on the grounds of a guest house in the east of Guruvayur, the Srivalsam guest house complex. This sculpture is believed to be the largest of its kind in Asia. It's 52 feet tall. It's made of terracotta, a kind of clay. And this golden halo, this golden arch that you see surrounding the statue, it is called Kanaka Prabha, Kanaka meaning gold. This golden arch is infused with very rare Ayurvedic and Siddha medicinal compounds. And the vibrations from this Maraprabhu sculpture and this golden arch are believed to have a curative effect on the environment and the worshippers who come to pray. Now, on yet another occasion, this again involves both Narayana Bhattatiri and Pundanam. So Pundanam once presented a draft of the Jnanapana that he had been composing. He presented it to Narayana Bhattatiri for his review, because he, as a fellow poet, as a scholar, Pundanam respected Narayana Bhattatiri very much. And he wanted him to read the Jnanapana and provide his comments. Now, Narayana Bhattatiri was also composing the Narayaniyam at that time. Now, Bhattatiri was, this is yet another instance of Bhattatiri's pride being humbled. Proud of his knowledge of Sanskrit, Bhattatiri outright, he refused to read the Jnanapana. He said, no, this is written in Malayalam. And in those days, Malayalam being a vernacular language, a language of the common people, and Sanskrit was considered to be a language of the elite, the high class, so to speak. It was not as widely accepted as Sanskrit in those days for literary works. He told Pundanam, no, you should learn Sanskrit before you even start writing. And this, of course, hurt Pundanam very much. Now, the Lord wasn't going to stay silent, was he? The next day, when Bhattatiri prepared to offer the next set of 10 verses, so we learned that he composed 10 verses every day. So 10 by 10, in 100 days, he completed the Narayaniyam. The next day, when he preferred to offer the next set of 10 verses to the Lord, a small boy whom no one had ever seen before in the temple premises, he came over and he began to point out mistakes after mistakes in Bhattatiri's writing. Oh, what you've written is wrong. Is this how you write it? And he went on and on. He kept pointing mistake after mistake in every single verse that Bhattacharya had composed. And after 10 mistakes in 10 verses, Bhattacharya finally realized who the boy really was, and he fell at his feet. But by the time he looked up, the boy had disappeared. And then a celestial voice rang out again. He said, the Lord said, Puntanam's genuine bhakti, his genuine devotion, is much, much dearer to me than Bhattacharya's vibhakti, or superior learning. So bhakti is more important to me than vibhakti. And Bhattacharya then realized his mistake, and he asked Puntanam for forgiveness. And then he proceeded to read the Jnanapana written in Malayalam. And not surprisingly, the Jnanapana turned out to be flawless. Not a single mistake in the entire composition. Now this, I'll now relate an episode where the Lord came to Puntanam's rescue, rescuing him from a very, very difficult situation. This photograph that you see is a statue in inside the Guruvayur temple. So as you do your pradakshina inside the temple, as you circumambulate the central shrine in the temple, in one particular part of the temple, there are a number of statues on both sides, one on each pillar. And there are statues for Krishna, Balarama, Adi Shankaracharya, Narayana Bhattacharya, Puntanam Nambudiri, three other devotees of the Lord, whom I shall refer to in the coming sessions. Then Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the two Dwarapalakas, or the guardians of, or the gatekeepers of the Lord's abode. Then Mahalakshmi, Saraswati, Vedavyasa, and Narada. So these are, I think that's it. Yeah. So these statues are on both sides of one particular part of the temple, one statue on each pillar. So the one that you see in the photograph here is the one of Puntanam Nambudiri. So back in those days when Puntanam Nambudiri lived, he used to walk all the way to Guruvayur from his home. We know his home now it is about 65 kilometers away from Guruvayur. And in those days, there wasn't even any proper means of transport. So he used to walk, literally, he used to actually walk every month all the way from his home to Guruvayur so that he could offer prayers to the Lord. And on one such trip, robbers accosted him on the road, and it was a very lonely forested area. No human being around for miles and miles. And Puntanam was all alone. And they grabbed hold of him and they took away every single possession that he had, including the gold ring that he was wearing on one of his fingers. Now the robbers, they also tried to snatch away a copy of the Bhagavatam which Puntanam was carrying. He always had a copy of the Bhagavatam with himself because wherever he went, the people or the devotees were very fond of listening to his recitation of the Bhagavatam in particular. So he always had a copy with him. And then now the robbers tried to snatch even this Bhagavatam away from Puntanam. He clung onto it very desperately because it was so dear to his life, he couldn't bear to part with it. And he clung onto it and he cried out, "Oh Guruvayurappa, please help me, come on, please, please, I cannot give this up. You must come to my rescue." And then suddenly, in that lonely forest where there were no human beings, no light, no sign of life whatsoever, the sound of horses' hooves was heard. They could hear horses approaching, running fast. And to Puntanam's great, great relief, he saw that the person who had arrived was none other than a person called Manga Tachan, the minister of the Zamorin king. Now, the Zamorin or the Samudri kings were the rulers of the kingdom of Calicut, at that time in Kerala. Calicut is today called the city of Kozhikode. So in those days, it was a much bigger kingdom. And these kings, these Zamorin kings, ruled that particular part of Kerala from the 12th to sometime in the early 19th century. So this king's minister, Mangatachan, he arrived and he chased down the robbers. He retrieved all the belongings of Poondanam that they had snatched away, and he returned all of them to Poondanam. Poondanam was so relieved, and he was so grateful. As a token of his gratitude, he presented his gold ring to Mangatachan. Now, Poondanam, then he continued on his journey, and the next morning, when he reached Guruvayur, when he reached the temple, the chief priest, who was called Melchanti in Malayalam, the chief priest, he handed over a ring to Poondanam. And Poondanam said, oh my goodness, this is my ring. How did you get it? I had given it to Mangatachan yesterday. How did it come into your hands? He asked the priest. And then he realized that the previous night, it was not Mangatachan who had come to Poondanam's rescue. It was Guruvayurappan himself, who had taken the form of Mangatachan to rescue Poondanam, to drive those robbers away, and to ensure personally that Poondanam would be safe and sound. And the priest, the Melchanti, he then informed Poondanam that the Lord had appeared in his dream and asked him to hand over the ring to Poondanam when he would come for darshan the next day. The Lord's grace is infinite. This temple, this very, very beautiful temple, the photographs that you see on the screen, of course, photographs do no justice. I have personally not been able to visit this temple, but I have read about it and I would very much like to, given the opportunity. So this temple is called the Idadapuram Sri Krishna temple. This temple is right next to Poondanam's ancestral home, which exists even today. His home exists. This is where he lived, and the home is taken care. The home and this temple, this Krishna temple, they are taken care of by the Guruvayur temple administration. So now, in his old age, Poondanam found it very difficult to make this very, very long journey to Guruvayur by foot. He kept growing old, and as he kept growing older, it wasn't easy for him to do complete the entire journey by walking. And on one occasion, he even tried, in spite of his difficulties, he tried to start his journey. But after a very short distance, he found himself to be extremely tired. He just couldn't walk anymore. And he started lamenting, oh Krishna, oh Guruvayurappa, what is this? I'm not able to come to Guruvayur to see you. What am I to do? How can I stay without seeing you every month? What shall I do now? At that moment, he suddenly had a vision of Guruvayurappan on his left, to his left side. And the Lord blessed him, saying, you don't have to walk all the way to Guruvayur anymore. I shall come right here to accept your worship. You need not come to Guruvayur. I will come here. I will be here and I will accept your worship personally. Construct a temple for me here. So the temple that was thus constructed, it came to be known as Idadapuram Sri Krishna temple. Idada in the word Idada in Malayalam means the left side. So the main deity here in this temple is the four-armed Mahavishnu with and then next to the main shrine, there is another shrine dedicated to a very rare deity of baby Krishna. He's sitting cross-legged and holding butter in both of his hands. Just imagine how cute, how very adorable the Lord must be. So such a deity of Krishna is very rare, sitting cross-legged and holding butter in both his hands. So a very special temple. And lastly, a very fitting end to Poondanam's physical life, Poondanam's life in the physical world. he once, this photograph that you see is the front of his house in Malappuram in Kerala. He once had a dream in which Vishnu Dutas, or the messengers of Lord Vishnu, arrived. This is what he saw in his dream. They arrived in the celestial aircraft and they took him to Vaikuntha. Now, at the gates of Vaikuntha, the two divine gatekeepers, they very respectfully received Puntanam. They bowed down to him. And Puntanam, being as humble as he was, he said, "No, I do not deserve such respect and honor. What have I done to deserve this?" So the gatekeepers said that in their previous birth, they had been in the form of two plantain trees or two banana trees growing in the courtyard of Puntanam's house. And on account of continuously listening to Puntanam's recitation of the Bhagavatam, they were elevated to Vaikuntha by the mere listening of the Bhagavatam. So imagine two souls or two beings in the form of trees being elevated to such a high position as the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha just because of continuously listening to the Bhagavatam. And because that had happened to them, they considered Puntanam to be their guru or teacher. And that is why they offered their respects to him. And when Puntanam woke up from the dream, he saw that those two plantain trees that were there in the courtyard of his house had fallen to the ground. So what he saw was not a dream, it was real, it was true. One day, this was when Puntanam was very, very old. He went about telling everyone in his house, "Krishna is coming to our house tomorrow. Krishna is coming. Can you believe that? Krishna is coming to our house. We must clean the house. We must decorate it. You must prepare a feast. Nothing must be spared to welcome the Lord of the universe." No one believed him. He thought he's going old, he's gone mad. It's all an illusion. He doesn't know what he's saying. Puntanam doesn't know what he's saying. He's just blabbering. But nevertheless, they made the preparations like he asked. The Lord indeed arrived. He did arrive the very next day. And but of course, it was only Puntanam who could see the Lord because his faith was unquestioning. And the others who did not believe him, they couldn't see the Lord with their naked eyes. So Puntanam hurried about the house. He started pouring water to wash the Lord's feet. He asked the Lord to sit down. He served him food. He was fanning him gently, and he kept asking, "Oh Krishna, do you want this? Would you like me to serve you something else? Drink some water. Ask for whatever you like. Don't hesitate." Just as one receives a very honored, respectful guest, and this guest was none other than the Lord of the universe himself. So Puntanam kept doing this, and to the other people in the house who were watching this happening, they could only see Puntanam. They could not see the Lord. You know, what is he doing? Is he talking to himself now? Is that what has happened to him? So that's what happened. And after some time, Puntanam suddenly said, "Now the Lord wants me to go with him. I'm going to accompany Krishna. I'm going with Krishna now." And he invited anyone in the household who wished to join him. Anyone who wants to come, is there anyone who would like to come with me? Krishna is taking me to his abode. I'm going with him. Would anyone like to come with me? No one believed him, except a very simple housemaid who had been nursing his wife, who had been taking care of Puntanam's wife. She was the only one who believed him. And she said, "I will come with you." And Puntanam said, "Most gladly, please." And the celestial aircraft that had brought the Lord there, it then ascended towards Vaikuntha with Puntanam still in his human body, and only the soul of the maid. The maid's body was left behind. It was only her soul that accompanied Puntanam and the Lord to Vaikuntha. So this Krishna idol that you see in the photograph, it has been placed at that very spot where the Lord's aircraft was believed to have landed in the courtyard of Puntanam's house. And whoever visits this house, without fail, they offer their prayers at this particular spot. To imagine that the Lord at some point in time, not very far, like the 16th century, the 17th century, about 500 to 600 years ago, sometime between 500 and 600 years ago. So yes, this was the end of a very, very great life that Puntanam lived. So that was all that I had to share about Puntanam today. I've now included a few photographs of Guruvayur because I believe we discussed in the last session that the devotees would like to see a little more of Guruvayur. And of course, photos of the exterior are somewhat easily available, but because photography is not permitted inside the temple, only officially clicked photographs are available. They are very rare. It's not very easy, but I've tried my best to include what I can. I'll include more pictures in the following sessions. So the first photograph, top left, is one glimpse of the Karcha Shiveli, or the elephant procession that takes place at night. So those three elephants standing, the Lord's festive deity is being carried on top of the elephant in the center, and they wave chamaras, and they have decorated umbrellas and all the pomp and splendor. It's really, really very beautiful to watch in person. The second photograph next to it is one of the temple priests carrying the festive deity of the Lord. So this is in a way, it's a replica of the main deity. This is how the main deity looks like: four-armed Vishnu holding Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. We then have a photograph of the front of the Mamur Shiva temple. The Shiva temple that I mentioned in the first session, where Lord Shiva went to reside along with Devi Parvati after the deity of Guruvayurappan was brought to Guruvayur by Guru and Vayu. So any visit to Guruvayur is considered complete only after prayers are offered to Lord Shiva as well at this particular temple. And there is another photograph of some artists painting murals on the outer walls of the temple. So this style of painting is peculiar to Kerala. It's particular to Kerala. It is it focuses on religious motifs. It focuses on depicting stories from our scriptures, from the Ramayana or the Mahabharata or the Bhagavatam, in the form of paintings. So there is a school there is an institute in Guruvayur that is dedicated to teaching this particular style of painting. This is another set of photographs. So this is a close-up of the Tidambu or the replica of the Lord, the festive deity of the Lord, which is taken out during daily processions and during festivals. Then these are two views of the lights, the lamps that are lit in the evenings and at night. Of course, it's nothing beats an in-person experience, but I'll try my best to convey via pictures. So these are the statues in the top photograph that you see. These are the statues on both sides that I spoke about a little while earlier. So the very first one that you see here is Krishna in the Kathakali style, or the traditional Kerala costume. No, wait, is it Krishna or is it Balarama? I think it's Balarama. Yeah, it's Balarama. I think Krishna's, it's not visible. I'm not sure. Is it? I'm not sure if he's visible in the photograph. So that's Balarama, followed by Adi Shankaracharya. Next to him is Narayana Bhattatiri. After that are the two Dwarapalakas, or the guardians of, or the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. And then I think is Kartikeya, Lord Ganesha's brother, Lord Kartikeya, and a few other devotees of the Lord. Then there is Devi Saraswati and many other statues. So this, like it's on this side, there are statues on the other side as well. Very beautiful, very detailed. And this last set of photographs, so during the annual temple festival, the festive deity is never brought out of the temple on any other, during any other time of the year, except during the annual temple festival, which takes place sometime in mid-February to mid-March every year. So this photograph, the very first one that you see, is when the deity of the Lord is brought outside the temple, and devotees can come and is it outside the temple or is it inside? I'm not sure. I think it's still inside the temple. But yes, the Lord does come out in procession during this festival. So that's one. And another photograph, this is where, this is one of those places in the temple premises where the devotees are served the Lord's prasadam. So this is the prasada utta meaning the serving of food, the sanctified food or the prasadam to the devotees. And below that, it's an offering of the new harvest. So it's a tradition, the festival of Onam that is celebrated in Kerala. It is a traditional harvest festival. So the first harvest of that season is traditionally presented as an offering to the Lord with prayers for a more bountiful or a more abundant harvest the next time round. So this is a photograph of some farmers or devotees bringing some of their first harvest to Guruvayur. That's all I have for today. Any questions, anything that the devotees would like to share, anything that you would like to ask?
That's good, very thorough.
Hare Krishna.
No? Yes.
Very nice, Shruti. Thank you so much for taking us on a tour to Guruvayur. Hopefully, by the mercy of the Lord, one day we can visit that temple, but we already have the history, which will help us a lot. Thank you very much. You are very knowledgeable, and you have very nice, voice of singing. I would like to hear more songs from you as well as Karuna, but the accent is typically South Indian, which make it beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Anybody else? Any questions? Any comments?
Hare Krishna, Shruti Mataji.
Hare
Karuna here. Thank you very much. Every Sunday that I'm hearing all these pastimes, so wonderful. Every Sunday, my eagerness grow more and more to go over there and have darshan. So nice. Thank you very much.
I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Don't get
If you here, you were not explaining all these, I would have never known about this.
Now,
Thank you very much.
Karuna, don't get too enthusiastic because next Sunday it's me.
Oh no!
You hear the scream. No, we'll explain why in a minute.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, I really enjoyed it. You're so beautiful. Your voice is beautiful. Your singing, the way you narrated everything, I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so very much. You're very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really nice listening to the different devotees. It's so amazing.
Haribol, I have been to Kerala, but I've missed this. So I think I'll have to plan my next Kerala visit and make sure I go and visit what you've just described. It sounds very spiritual,
And you have
absolutely
to pack us
spiritual.
in your bags as well.
Sorry?
You have to pack us all in your bags.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes,
Oh,
Mataji.
you can lead us and we'll follow you. Thank you, Mataji. Lovely. I think everybody has given you comments. I can add on and on and on. But Krishna's mercy, everything's fine.
All Krishna's mercy.
Yeah.
All Krishna.
Haribol, Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Well done. Thank you very much. Let me stop there. Guru Vayur ki jai.